Alright, here we are. Hopefully you've opened the Stable Nuclides spreadsheet and you've got something that looks like this. The first thing you want to do is just have a quick look. You can see that we've got all of the elements listed, their atomic number, their mass number. We need to determine the number of neutrons, and over here we've also included the number of stable isotopes. So we're investigating one particular isotope of each one of these elements, but as you can see here, a lot of these elements have more than one stable isotope, and we'll have a look at that in a bit more detail during the discussion. So the first thing we need to do is to calculate the number of neutrons, and we can get Excel to do that. So remember, the number of neutrons is going to be found by taking the mass number and subtracting the atomic number. So to do that, hit equals to tell Excel we're going to do a sum. Click that value as the mass number, take away that cell, which is the atomic number, and hit enter, and it does that calculation for you. Now we only need to put the formula in once. After that, we go back and click on the cell again, and then as you move the mouse over, it turns into a black cross. Once you're sitting over that little square, click and drag, and it will copy that formula through the rest of the set of data. There we go. And then when you release, it does that calculation for you. So there's the first bit already done, pretty straightforward. Next thing we want to do is then to have a look at the relationship between the number of neutrons versus the number of protons, which of course is the atomic number. So we're going to plot atomic number versus the number of neutrons. So I'm going to click and highlight this particular column with this data here. And then to highlight the other column, because the two columns aren't sitting next to each other, I'm going to hold down the command key. So with the command key held down, I'm then going to click and drag, and I can highlight that second column of data. And then I want to insert, so I go to insert, and I'm going to insert a scatter plot. So this is for XY scatter, and I'm just going to choose the first scatter plot that's there. And there's my data. Now when the scatter plot comes up, I also get this new strip or ribbon with information on chart design. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this. This is way too small and I want to have a better look at it. So I'm going to go to move chart, and I'm going to turn it into a new sheet. By clicking that, it's going to actually put the chart on a brand new sheet, which gives me a lovely big version of the chart. Now the thing you'll notice at the moment is I don't have any axes marked or anything like that. So there's a couple of things that we can do to get there. We can use the quick layout, which gives us a designated layout, or we can click on this one here and add our own chart elements. I'm going to go to quick layout to start with, which will give me a starter. It doesn't give me everything that I like, but it gives me most things. And I'm going to click this one down here because it gives me a grid. It gives me axis titles. The only thing it doesn't give me is a chart title. So I'm then going to go to add element, and I'm going to put in a chart title as well. There we are there. So now I can type in everything, number of neutrons versus protons up here. And then I'm going to type in this axis here, which is my number of protons. Sorry, number of neutrons. And down here is my number of protons. Now, if you're not sure if the axes have actually been put in the right way, you can always go back to your data and double check that the numbers are representative. Sometimes when you're using Excel, these axes are placed in around the wrong way and it can be quite frustrating. Okay, so there's my data there. One of the things you'll notice is that perhaps it doesn't look quite like the one that's in the textbook, and that's mostly because the axes and the scale that we're using aren't the same. So this is the same distance, but it goes up 20, whereas this is the same distance and it goes up 10. But believe me, it is the same data. If you want to just remind yourself that it is exactly the same, if you go to page layout, and you turn the orientation to portrait, you can see there now it sits straight up and it looks much more like the one that's actually provided in the textbook. But this portrait layout isn't very good. We can't see a lot of detail, so we're going to go back to landscape. So the next thing we want to do is we want to put an X versus Y line on our data, because then we can actually make a bit of a comparison. So I'm going to go back to my sheet, And I'm going to create another set of data in the column up here, and I'm going to call it x, y, okay? So x equals y, or we might say y equals x so we can be mathematically correct. Y equals x. So we want to have a y equals x set of data just so that we can then investigate and see how that compares. Now I really only need 2 points. I need the point 0, 0, and I'm going to, our largest one is down here, 82, so I'm going to make it go to 90. I'm going to put 90, 90. So I'm going to plot these 2 points and then draw a line of best fit, and that will give us a line of y equals x on our graph. So to do that, I'll go back to the chart, and then I'm going to actually click on chart design there, and over here you get a link called select data. So if I click on select data, at the moment it's showing me that where the data is coming from, and you can see we've moved back to the data page. I want to add a new series. I'm going to call it y. I'm going to call it y equals x. Y equals x, like that. And I'm going to select the data where it comes from. So I'll just go back so you can see what I just pressed then. I press this little button here. When I click on that, I have to select the source data. So I go to the sheet, and my x values are going to be these 2 values here. So I just highlight those 2 values and I hit enter. And then in the same way, I collect my y values, highlight those 2 and hit enter. And so now I've got those 2 data points, which should hopefully show on the graph when I hit OK. So there they are there, those 2 points, one there and one there. Now the last thing I want to do is I want to draw a line of a trend line. So I'm going to add a trend line, and there we are in there. And what that has done is just showing us, and it's chosen a linear trend line, which is fabulous. So that's just now given us a y equals x line that we can actually make comparisons on versus the data that we've got there. Okay, so hopefully that's been helpful, and now you've got your data all set up that we can do some analysis. Thanks for watching.